Good morning, everybody. We are going to have a video over long division today, long division of polynomials, I should say. I just want to kind of go through the procedure. Feel free to pause, fast forward, rewind as needed, and hopefully this is informative. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, and I want to look at the first term of the expression on the outside, so the divisor. Okay. And I want to look at the first term of the expression on the inside, often referred to as the dividend. Okay. So if I were to take 2x and 6x squared, I think to myself, what do I need to multiply 2x by in order to create a 6x squared, right? 2x times what is a 6x squared? The answer to that question is going to be a 3x. And I'll show you. 3 times 2 is 6, and then x times x is x squared. Okay? Now, you can't just multiply the 3x by the 2x, though. You have to multiply the 3x times the negative 5. So if I do that, 3x times a negative 5 would become a negative 15x. Okay? I'm going to erase some of these arrows. But I took that 3x and multiplied it to both terms of the expression on the outside. Okay? Now, just like with any long division, our next step, I'm going to draw my little line, and I'm going to subtract. And this is the part where you have to be very, very careful. So 6x squared minus 6x squared, that just goes to 0. Okay? And then 9x, so I'm off to the side here. This is the one that you have to worry about. 9x minus a negative 15x. Now, we don't really have to worry about the x's. I just want to subtract the numbers in front. Okay, so if I did 9 minus a negative 15, anytime you have a minus, a negative, or minus minus right next to each other, that is going to be a plus 15, which gives me 24. So I have a 24x, and then my next step is going to bring down the next term. So if you want to see that whole process again, we're going to do everything all over again. I'm going to try to use red this time. So I'm going to take a look at this 2x. I'm going to take a look at this 24x. And I need to figure out, I think for a second, what do you have to multiply 2x by to get 24x? Well, they already have x's. So I just need to multiply it by 12. Okay? And again, I can show that 12 times 2x is 24x. And then 12 times negative 5. Now, if you need to use a little calculator here, you can. But that would be a negative 60. And I'm going to subtract. So when I subtract 24 minus 24, these should cancel. But I need to be very careful with these other terms. Okay, remember to subtract them. So negative 2 minus a negative 60. Now it looks like we're going to have another one of these minus minus situations, subtracting a negative, right? So whenever you subtract a negative minus a minus, you can see them right next to each other. So that's going to become a plus 60. So now if I want to do negative 2 plus 60, if you need a calculator, please use it. That should just give me 58. And this number here is my remainder. Okay? So my answer, what I'm going to get, my final answer, is going to be a 3x plus 12 plus 58 over 2x minus 5. Okay? And this, ladies and gentlemen, is my final answer. That's what I get if I divide it. Now, remember to write your remainder. I always take the remainder and put it over what I divided by. So that's how I get the 58 over the 2x minus 5. Okay? All right. So let's do another one. Now, dividing can also be represented with a fraction bar, right? So if I have a fraction, that's still dividing. So I want to actually divide these two things. So if I were to take my 12x cubed minus 11x squared plus 9x plus 18, and I divide that by a 4x plus 3. Okay? So let's go through this process step by step. My eyes are drawn to the first term on the outside and the first term on the inside. So what do I have to multiply 4x by in order to get a 12x cubed? So in order to turn a 4 into a 12, I need to multiply it by 3. And I want x cubed. So I have 1x already. I'm going to need 2 more. So if I multiply this to both pieces, don't forget to multiply to both. So 3x squared times 4x is a 12x cubed. 3x squared times 3 is a 9x squared. And now we need to be very, very careful with our subtractions. Notice I put subtractions between both numbers. Okay? 12x cubed minus 12x cubed, that cancels. Off to the side here, just to be careful with my subtraction, I have a negative 11 minus a positive 9, right? So if I do a negative 11 minus a positive 9, that will give me a negative 20. Okay, and as soon as you do that subtraction, we're going to bring down the next term and repeat that whole process again. So I'm going to erase these arrows. Okay, I want to match this first term to my new first term. So what do you have to multiply 4x by in order to get a negative 20x squared? Well, I'm going to have to multiply it by a negative 5, and it still needs one more x. So negative 5x times 4x is a negative 20x squared. Negative 5x times 3 is a negative 15x. If I subtract, negative 20 minus negative 20 cancels. Off to the side here, I'm going to have a 9 minus a negative 15. So if I subtract a negative, it's one of those minus minus situations. 9 plus 15, which is 24. So this is becoming a 24x. And I still have one more term to drop down. And I'm going to do the process one more time. So same procedure. I have a 4x. I want to match it to a 24x. So I'm going to multiply it by 6. 6 times 4, 6 times 4x is 24x. 6 times 3 is 18. If I subtract, 24 minus 24 is 0. And then off to the side here, I'm going to have an 18 minus 18, which also happens to be 0. So now normally this number on the bottom is my remainder. This problem does not have a remainder, so my final answer would be a 3x squared minus 5x plus 6. Now, if our remainder was any other number other than 0, we would write that fraction at the end. We would take that remainder and we would put it over the 4x plus 3. Since it's 0, we don't really need to write it. So our answer is just 3x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay. So now this one has a new little twist to it. Okay. So I want to show it to you. And I want to show you how I set this up because this is very important. So if you're going to do long division with this problem, I want you to see, do you guys see how it goes from x cubed? I'm going to leave some space here to 2x plus 9. I'm missing that quadratic term. There is no quadratic term in this. In this case, I have 0 x squareds. Okay, so I always want to, if you're ever missing a term, I always want to put a placeholder in there. Okay, and you'll see in the next example, I have the same thing. I have a term missing. We want to put a placeholder. So on the outside is still the x minus 2. And just so you know, whenever you just have an x cubed or an x, there's always just a 1 in front. Sometimes that helps you out a little bit. But what do I need to multiply 1x by in order to get a 1x cubed? Okay, well, I would have to multiply it by a 1. 1 times 1 is still 1. And then x, I need 2 more x's, so I'd get x squared. So if I multiply that to both terms, 1x squared times 1x is 1x cubed. 1x squared times a negative 2 is a negative 2x squared. I'm going to subtract. And these first terms should always cancel because they should be exactly the same. I need to be very careful with the subtraction of the next piece, though, because I need to do 0 and then minus a negative 2, which, again, I have one of those minus and negative situations. So that would just be 0 plus 2, which is just a 2x squared. And I'm going to bring down the next term, which is a 2x. So let's erase these arrows. Let's do it all again. My eyes are drawn to this 2x and this 1x squared, or 2x squared and 1x. So what do I have to multiply 1x by in order to get a 2x squared? Well, I have to multiply it by 2, that's for sure. And I believe in x, because it already has 1. So let's check that. 2x times 1x. So 2 times 1 is 2. X times x is x squared. And then I'm going to do 2x times a negative 2, which would be a negative 4x. And I subtract again. Make sure you subtract both sets of numbers. So 2x squared minus 2x squared, ladies and gentlemen, that should always cancel. That should always go to 0. But I have to worry about the second one, 2 minus a negative 4, which is 2 plus 4, which is 6. So this would be a 6x. And then my last step, I'm going to bring down the last term, plus 9. So let's erase these arrows on the top. Okay, so my question is, what do I have to multiply 1x by so that it becomes a 6x? Well, that's pretty easy. I just need to multiply it by a 6. 6 times 1x is 6x. Don't forget, 6 times negative 2 is a negative 12. You have to multiply to both terms. We're going to subtract. These should cancel because they should be the same number. And then I'm going to have a 9 minus negative 12. So that would become a 9 plus 12, which is 21. And I have no more terms to drop down, so I just have a remainder of 21. So my answer to this question, when I divide it, is a 1x squared plus 2x plus 6, and then plus a 21 over 1x minus 2. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, that is long division. I'm going to do one last example. Okay? Again, this is missing a term, so you can see me fill in a placeholder just in case that confused you on the last problem. So if you take that numerator, I have x cubed minus 2x squared. But if you notice, I'm missing that linear term, just that x term. So I'm going to put a placeholder in there of 0x, and now I have the minus 4. So you can see I have all x cubed, x squared, x, and then a term without any x's. I want to make sure I have all of those terms, and then I'm going to put an x minus 3 on the outside. So let's go through this one last time. What do I need to multiply x by in order to get it to be x cubed? Well, that's just an x squared. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 3, or negative 3, is a negative 3x squared. We are going to do subtraction. X cubed minus x cubed should go to 0. Off to the side here, negative 2 minus negative 3. So that's going to be a negative 2 plus 3, which would be a 1. So that gives me a 1x squared. I'm going to drop down the 0x. And if I do this, so now I'm going to have my eyes focused on the first term of the outside and the first term of my new problem. So what do I have to multiply x by to get a 1x squared? Well, a 1x, or just x if you want to put that. 1x times x is 1x squared, which is what we want. 1x times -3 is a -3x. I'm going to subtract. 1x squared minus 1x squared cancels. 0 minus a -3, which is 0 plus 3, which would just give me 3x. And then we're going to bring down the -4. So now one last time. What do I have to multiply x by to become a 3x? Well, that's just 3. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times the -3 is a -9. Subtract. You have to always be very, very careful with these subtractions. -4 minus -9. Look how many negatives are in this. -4, this will end up becoming +9, which gives me 5. So that's my remainder. So my answer to this is going to be x squared, or 1x squared, that's fine, plus 1x plus 3 plus my remainder is 5 over x minus 3. And ladies and gentlemen, this is my final answer. Okay, hopefully this helped with long division. I will post this on Google Classroom. So if you have any further questions, just please let me know. Bye, guys.